There are lots of ways you can go public with scholarship of teaching. It's perfectly acceptable to use the traditional methods, chapters and books. There are plenty of journals. We have our new journal, Teaching and Learning Inquiry, and that is an easy to recognize form of scholarship. I'm sort of not an early adopter, but I'm a big user now of the internet, and I believe that electronic media, particularly the sort of gallery of course portfolios as a genre, provide a really great way for people to represent, for their own purposes, for reflection, what they do in a course. What are your goals? What did you do? What did you find? What did you learn from it? The complete sort of sense of inquiry. Once it becomes in a publicly archived kind of site, then others can use it the same way they would use a print article. So I find there are numbers of galleries like this where people can search them, can find the kind of course portfolio that's related to their field. It may be related to a type of teaching or a type of student. And so to me, that's a going public, which is what publication is about, that I think has really high value. And I suppose it could be criticized because it has a lower bar. There are not as many, first of all, there aren't page limitations, so the whoever's editing the collection or curating the set has unlimited wall space in this virtual gallery. So there's not that kind of, only pick some. Those galleries vary in how high a bar they set to get in. The galleries that I participate in, the most important thing is that you show evidence of student work and be public about the criteria you use for it, and talk about what you learned from reading what your students do, or looking at if it's not textual material. So that's the one I know the best. I find certain kinds of conferences or workshops that people give would, to me, to be a form of scholarship. Depends a bit on the content, but I could imagine being asked to review someone for promotion based on scholarship of teaching and learning, and that in that packet I might get an article, I might get a link to a course portfolio, I might get a PowerPoint and a set of handouts from a workshop. And if I read that PowerPoint and those handouts, I could very well determine if that person was doing thoughtful, informed, evidence-based scholarship. So those are some examples of different ways of showing scholarship.
I think the key ingredient is finding a group of colleagues who are doing this work as well. You might find them on your own campus. You might find them beyond in your own discipline or around a pedagogy that you're interested in, problem-based learning, service learning, undergraduate research. But find colleagues who are also interested in really investigating their students' learning. You will learn things from each other. You will maybe work very deliberately together, maybe publish together. I think that's the thing that's most helpful to most people.
When you do research in your own discipline, whether it be physics or history or drama or any one of the other disciplines, you may or may not see yourself in multiple roles while you do that research. In the scholarship of teaching and learning, I would invite people to embrace multiple roles. Not to be put off by it, not to say life is too short for all of these roles, but say there's a great deal of life in this. For example, you are a straight ahead, in some ways, social science researcher or humanities researcher, or you may see yourself in some ways as a scientific brain researcher. All of that and others can fit within the topic of SoTL, and that's great. Ask your research questions, grind it out, do what you do as a researcher. But there's another role. There's an advocacy role, and I don't think you can ignore that. Well, you could. I just don't want you to ignore that. I want you to embrace that as well. So the topic we were talking about before regarding what do you do if you're conducting SoTL research in a bit of a vacuum, if not a wasteland, in your eyes? What do you do? Well, we all are to a certain extent. So we are constantly advocating for the value of what we are doing. We're disseminating and we we take dissemination as a major responsibility in our SoTL work, not just in journals, but local dissemination. You think about multiple levels of impact for your work. You want that to excite you, and then you'll never leave SoTL, because that excitement, I think, is pretty much lifelong.
A lot of friendly and collegial SoTLers out there that would facilitate that kind of networking. And then beyond that, I actually run, in Wisconsin, I ran an institute for writing SoTL publications, and I've been helping other faculty groups take completed projects all the way through publication. And what I always do is start with that initial anxiety of, I've published in my discipline, or I've presented in my discipline, this is something else, this is something outside of that, which is true. But there's also some really important common ground of starting with, there are essential moves that we make to take from the book They Say, I Say by Gerald Graff and Kathy Bernstein. The idea that there are essential moves that we make across the disciplines when presenting an argument. And after all, many SoTL projects, that going public is presenting an argument in a way. And so I say start with what you know in the discipline, and then start drafting from there in terms of disciplinary publications and moves, and start from there, and then look at a variety of SoTL journals, or the one you know you want to publish in, and just get a smattering of what those publications look like and use those as models. And then I think maybe the key to successfully going public is, again, I'm going to go back to this collaborative model or conversational model of not doing it in isolation, but working with a mentor or a colleague or someone who's done it before, and bouncing drafts off of that person, getting peer review before you go towards the more public peer review. Again, I think there are many of us who are eager to encourage new people to enter the field, and by that I don't mean just get started, I mean actually join the conversation in these more public venues.